Hello. Welcome to a lovely episode of Wild Wisdom Podcast. I am your penultimate petunia, Peter Stockbridge, and I am once again joined by my main men, Alan.
Hello there.
And Mark.
Hello again.
We are back with episode 2 of our Why We Love 1980s Movies. This is 1981. And before we dig into the films that we love the most, Alan's going to run through briefly about various births and deaths, and I've got some debuts here because there's a lot. For instance, Ben Affleck for Dark End of the Street. We've got Christina Applegate in Jaws of Satan. I've not seen that.
Never heard of that one.
Kenneth Branagh and Stephen Fry's first debuts of Chariots of Fire. I didn't know Stephen Fry was in.
No, I didn't know he was. No, I didn't know Branagh was, to be fair.
Kevin Costner in Malibu Hot Summer. That must have been alright. Fuck. Yeah. Jeff Daniels, Ragtime, Demi Moore choices, Sean Penn taps. There's a lot of debuts going on for this year.
Yes, and obviously, yes, there were some people who entered the world and who we know today. Born this year, Elijah Wood, Frodo Baggins, Tom Hiddleston, as everyone knows as Loki, Bryce Dallas Howard, daughter of Ron Howard, Hayden Christensen, aka Anakin Skywalker.
I hate sand.
Of course, and it gets everywhere.
Yeah.
Rami Malek, Captain America, Chris Evans.
No way.
Yeah. Meghan Markle, Beyonce Knowles, and Britney Spears, all born in 1981.
1981. What a year.
We were 2/3 years old at this point. I should say.
Yeah.
We should also say we've also said farewell to Bond veteran Bernard Lee, who played M, and Jack Albertson, who a lot will remember as the evil Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka. He was evil. I don't care what anyone says. He was a scumbag.
He was a bit evil. Suddenly he's able to walk. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Walk.
Get the cane, Charlie. You son of a bitch.
Get my cane, Charlie. Charlie. My cane.
We should probably jump in with
The biggest film of this year?
Should we do the biggest film?
Well, we started with the biggest film last year, so I guess we might as well go with tradition.
Why not?
Numero uno, number one box office hit of this year.
And it's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I think that this is the quintessential, action film, really. This is Steven Spielberg firing on all cylinders, and he just bounced back from a flop a couple of years previously, his first flop, and I think he learned from that not to be so precious with setting up shots and other things. So he's learned to basically shoot from the hip, and I think this is what he does in this film. There's some great imagery in it. There's some great action beats and moments and bits of humour and special effects and everything. But ultimately, it's about this character played by Harrison Ford, who sweeps the screen with all his daring do. Character of somewhat of a throwback to the 1930s Saturday morning serials.
Yeah. So this, he really got the mix perfect, didn't he? Because it was like this really perfect blend of action, romance, comedy.
It is. No, it's amazing because it's a genre that wasn't particularly well taken care of, but they threw a fair bit of money at it. It's a very sumptuous looking film, rich in the history of the time that it's set in the 1930s and taking place over in Cairo and Nepal and all these vastly different looking locations. But it's just a ride. It's like at the time I think a lot of critics compared it to a roller coaster ride, because once you're in, the film doesn't stop. It just keeps going from one scene to the next and to the next, and the action beats are on point.
The big guy with a sword.
Yeah, there's actually one of my favourite bits in the film, and there's many. Huge guy wielding this huge Saracen sword, and Harrison Ford's running around this marketplace in this tremendous heat of this Cairo market, and he's sweating profusely, and suddenly he's confronted with this guy wielding this sword, and he's thinking, oh god, here we go. And originally scripted, it was supposed to be a big sword and whip fight, but unfortunately during the filming, Harrison Ford contracted a serious bout of dysentery.
At the squits, bless him.
Bless him, yeah. And he'd been warned, actually, funny enough, by George Lucas back in when they were at Elstree setting up, because George Lucas had been in Tunisia, where they were actually filming, it wasn't Cairo, where they shot Star Wars, and he said, avoid eating at these places, because the food just ran right through my crew, and, you know, it's no good. So before he went, Spielberg went into the local Sainsbury's and stocked up on tins of baked beans and spaghetti hoops and things, and so basically he was the only one of the crew who didn't get sick. Everyone else ate there and had terrible dysentery and things, and he had his breakfast, lunch and dinner just eating cold out of the can, you know, he was fine. But poor old Harrison, so they had to do this big fight scene, and it wasn't happening, and he was having a particularly bad day of running backwards and forwards to the toilet, and I think it was Ford who said, let's just shoot the son of a bitch. And that's what happened. So the guy's wielding this sword, and Harrison just looks at him and is just like, oh,
he does all this.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a great moment, and it's wonderfully scored by John Williams, and it's you think, oh, well, something fantastic, you know, big fight is going to come up, and Harrison Ford just looks at him and just goes, bang,
like it's nothing.
Yeah, like as if he's just like, just scoot him out of the way. Yeah. And it's a great moment, and I've seen it at the cinema, and it still gets a big laugh from the audience. You know, we know it's coming, but it's still great. It's executed fantastically.
It's a timeless classic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a film you can go back and watch over and over, and it doesn't get old. It's aged very well.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, I think being set in the past already, that it doesn't age at all. You're quite right.
It basically follows this fabled artifact called the Ark, and it apparently holds great power, but I don't think the Nazis realised that it was actually more of a Pandora's box than you know.
Well, they do realise ultimately.
Well, when it's too late, when they're melting.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But you know, for it being really the first iteration for the 80s at least of that swashbuckling action adventure, you know, very.
Oh yeah, exactly. You got the John Williams, as you just mentioned there, the thumb and the music. Yeah, that's a huge contribution to this film and this decade as well. He was working very much hand in hand with Steven Spielberg at this point.
Yeah. We should sort of mention briefly that the top screenshot is, well, our number one fan, Dino, who has a channel on Instagram called EveryShotAPainting. And I believe this is his favourite shot of all time. If you love mise-en-scènes, as they're known in the industry, then check out his channel. I always assumed that Temple of Doom was the first one. Can we sort of sort it? Because I'm confused.
It's set before. Is that right?
Yeah.
Raiders is 36.
Raiders is set, 1936. But
Temple of Doom's 35.
Yeah. Why they did that, I don't know, because in terms of story, they could be set after each other. I don't know why they did that. The origin of it all came from Spielberg and Lucas sitting on a beach in Hawaii, and each of them had just made Star Wars and Close Encounters, respectively. They were waiting for the box office receipts to come in, and Spielberg said to Lucas, apparently, he said, what are you going to do next? And Lucas was like, well, I have no idea. I've written more Star Wars films, but depending on how this one goes, I'm not holding my breath. And he said to Spielberg, what are you going to do? He says, well, I've always wanted to direct a James Bond film. And then Lucas sort of thought about it and said, well, I've got something in my drawer that I've been working on. It might be as good as Bond, if not better, called Raiders of the Lost Ark. So he already had this character composed. I think at the time the character was called Indiana Smith. and Spielberg immediately said, you know, Jones would sound better.
Yeah, because Smith is shit.
No offense to any Smiths listening.
No.
Hey!
But yeah, he's Indiana Jones, and Lawrence Kasdan was the other screenwriter. So Lawrence Kasdan had Body Heat coming out this year. So with George Lucas, they come up with the whole story and script of Raiders, and they offered it to Spielberg originally as a 3-film deal. But because he was good friends with Lucas, Lucas kind of made the terms that he said, if we go ahead and do this, you direct it and I'll produce it. You have to stick to these following rules. A, it has to be delivered on time. It can't go over budget or over schedule. As Spielberg's previous films, Close Encounters and Jaws, have both been notoriously over budget and over schedule. So because it was his friend, he said, all right, I'll give it a go. And that's how he learned to be not so precious with taking forever, you know, setting up shots and making it thing and just going with his instincts, which proved, as you see, it proved to be fantastic. For instance, the silhouette shot of him putting on his hat as the sun's setting. You know, it's such a striking image and very evocative of David Lean and Lawrence Arabia, which I know is one of Spielberg's all-time favourite films.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I really liked this film. I love all three of the original Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah. They sum up the decade well, I think, you know, and as we all say, you know, they hold up fantastic, great. A good film should hold up on repeat viewings, and 40 years later it still does, you know.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's now move over to a brand new feature we've invented called Alan's Horror Corner, and Alan's going to talk about all the horror that came out of this year. So let's cue the jingle. Alan's Horror Corner.
Well, 81, well, the 80s in general was rife with horror movies, and quite a lot of them, and 81 is no different. Right off the bat, we're gonna go with the sequel to the franchise started from last episode, 1980, Friday the 13th, Part 2. Uh-huh. This is the one that introduced Jason to the big screen, minus his hockey mask. He didn't get that until.
Oh, we still not got it.
He hasn't got that. He's wearing a checkered shirt, dungarees, and a burlap sack with a hole cut in it.
Yeah, but at least he's actually the murderer this time.
He's actually the murderer this time. Yeah, and I think he kills the survivor of the first film first. Ah, how he finds her.
So there's like a 5-10 minute sequence with her in her flat or something.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously this is the one that kicked off Jason's cinematic career, if you like, killing various people. It actually sports one of the probably the most questionable kills he's ever made in any of these films, and I think it's an axe to the head of some poor guy in a wheelchair.
Oh, that's well out.
Who then he lets roll down some stairs. Outdoors, this is outdoor stairs. They're quite long and stony.
I wonder if they'd do that today.
It's probably not.
So these films, they were obviously the preceding decade of the 70s. They were horror films, but they weren't as graphic as tongue-in-cheek, perhaps.
No, the horror films of the 70s were shock value.
Right.
Like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
They dealt with some really extreme things, and they pushed the envelope as much as they could to try and gross people out, making people faint as I think The Exorcist did, and people throwing up.
We had a whole run of psychological horror, right? So this would have been the point where they wanted to change it up.
Yeah.
So I suppose Texas Chainsaw, perhaps in the 70s, that was, like The Exorcist, more cerebral. We had to think about it more.
That's right.
Even though it had shock moments, they weren't as graphic as perhaps like what you just described, And
of course, then you have Halloween in 78, which was very slow moving.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it had that synergy about it and that overall awe that you think, oh, what's going on? The suspense, is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
They had the suspense, whereas the 80s horror films were all kind of, I suppose you could say comic book in their way. The kills were very over-exaggerated.
Yeah. It was almost reveling in that more than the suspense element.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more about the kill rather than the build up to it.
That's right. That's right. That will lead me nicely to Halloween 2, which also released in 81. This was the direct sequel to Halloween. It was obviously taken about 3 years later, but the storyline is it's on the same night as the night that Donald Pleasance supposedly shoots Michael Myers dead, and he falls to the balcony to realise he's disappeared. This was all shot in a hospital for a large bulk of it. The idea was John Carpenter didn't want to do a sequel. He was kind of forced into this. He wanted something else, so he thought, okay, screw it, I'll just do it for you. I'm not directing this, someone else can do it. I'll write the story with Deborah Hill, we'll do that. And they essentially kill Michael Myers off at the end of this film. Pretty much you can't come back for how he died in this. Spoiler alert, he gets incinerated.
It's pretty final.
It's pretty final, yeah. So the idea was John Carpenter wanted an anthology kind of film based on Halloween, Halloween Day, with a spooky story every year. Of course, that'll go to next year, Halloween 3, which we'll get to on the next one.
That's quite a good idea for a set up a series, though. So you just have different protagonists in each instalment.
Yeah, different protagonists, different antagonists. Yeah. So you change it up. So also in 81, we had Wes Craven's first stab at a horror film, Deadly Blessing, which was about a serial killer in one town, and then there was another town which believed in curses and whatnot.
And Wes Craven went on to do Nightmare on Elm Street. He
went on to do Nightmare on Elm Street. He also did another film in 82, which we'll do in the next episode.
Cool.
Scanners.
Yeah.
David Cronenberg body horror film about a lot of a minority of people who have psychic abilities.
Yeah, telekinetic
abilities, and apparently they can make your head explode.
Yeah, and quite famously, this film featured an exploding head on camera. No one had ever really sort of seen a head explode. I think it quite shocked audiences and things, and they achieved this special effect by blowing the dummy's head off with a shotgun. you know, all attempts fail. Use the old school methods.
Exactly, get a gun out. Also that year we had The Howling, which was a werewolf movie.
The first or the second?
It was the first. It was a werewolf film. The most famous werewolf film that year was an American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
Which was it's the one I think that took the Academy Award for special effects.
Yeah.
Based on The Elephant Man the previous year.
Yeah, inspired them to create this.
So this is the first award for makeup effects.
Yeah, special effects makeup.
Actually goes to.
They didn't actually had one before, and because of the outcry from the previous year, The Elephant Man, they pushed.
We briefly discussed that.
Oh, we did. Yeah, I wasn't sure if we did. But yeah, American Werewolf in London. And what a great person! I think it's a great film. It's another John Landis film, hot off the heels of Blues Brothers. He was on a terrific run of films.
I still haven't seen the whole film. I've obviously seen that scene. And it was a
Peter
for its for the way they did the makeup.
Yeah.
I do remember some of it. Very, very important scene, I think, for horror.
Oh yeah, it's all practical effects. This is all pre-computer generated, and
the thing is, because it's obviously set in London, it's very English. I mean, you've got old Rick Mayall in there.
Rick Mayall's
he's in the slaughtered lamb sequence at the very beginning.
In the pub.
What?
He doesn't say anything. He just looks kind of like shocked as
he's in it, and
the two Americans walk in.
And Adrian Everson was supposed to be in it as well.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because
I can believe that.
John Landis, is a complete side note. When he came to London to prep this film, he'd be working all week. So during the weekends, he'd have a lot of downtime, and he'd be sitting in his hotel room, just sort of preparing for the next week. And on Saturday night television, the two shows he fell in love with. One was, I want to say, The Young Ones.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
It was around that time.
He's around that time, and fell in love with them and said, I want those two. I don't get, they make me laugh. I want to put them in my film. And the other show he loved was The Two Ronnies. And
why not?
And was already writing his next film, which we'll discuss, I guess, on the next film, which was Trading Places. He wrote the part of the butler for Ronnie Barker.
Oh wow, that would have been good.
And unfortunately, Ronnie Barker, he would have loved to have done it, but he was tied with his contract to The Two Ronnies and Open All Hours.
That's a shame, isn't it?
So it was an interesting thing, and in fact, most of the cast for American Werewolf in London was either through TV from John Landis, or he'd go around the West End and see a play.
Pretty sure one of the policemen, the one he approaches to get him arrested, he was in the bill.
Yeah,
as like a superintendent.
Well, there you go.
What are you doing here?
Yeah,
move along.
He just basically cast them. He didn't know their previous films, but he goes, I like them, I want them in. And I think Brian Glover was one of them.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
He was in.
Get that one back to the bloody infirmary.
Yeah, aye. Good old Brian Glover. He's that's a great way to cast it. He just saw who he liked, didn't care what they've been in before, but he goes, I want you in my film. Bang, it's great. And again, it's a great film. It holds up great. It's got a great sense of humour.
It does. The humour's right there, isn't it?
And the horror moments work because you laugh in 1 minute and then you scream in the next. So, and it's a lovely little time capture of London.
It's another example of a genre mix film, then, really.
Oh yeah,
if it's
you
funny
could say that. Yeah, it's got those moments. I think all the John Landis stuff has those humorous moments,
especially when his friends
they do that.
Yeah, especially when his friends, he sees his friend.
Yeah, he keeps seeing his dead friend who's been killed by this werewolf, but he sees him as a vision, and every time he sees him, he's more and more decayed.
Yeah, so by the end, he's pretty much a skeleton. By the end,
yeah, he's like a
kill yourself, David.
Yeah, David, it was all I favourite.
All these past victims are there in the cinema with him. I was going home to a wife and family for my dinner.
Yeah, all the people who die in the film, the spoiler alert, they're all there in the afterlife, and only David can see them because he's got this werewolf curse. So and they're all sitting there with all their fresh wounds from where he's killed them when he's been a werewolf.
Giving him the stares, a bit pissed off.
They're really annoyed, and it's just like, why did you do it? He says, well, I got no control. Obviously, when I'm a werewolf, don't take it personally,
Yeah.
He got this ludicrous setup, but it's played straight, and it's I like it.
Funny that year we had, which was another mix of horror and comedy, Evil Dead from Sam Raimi.
Oh yeah,
Evil Dead. That was
another one I haven't seen.
That's it's one of those kind of films you shouldn't laugh at, but but it is funny. It is really funny.
I like it because I only saw it a year or two back.
Okay.
And it's very low budget.
Very, yes. A shoestring.
Not even a shoestring.
Maybe
I don't
not.
think it was any budget, but it's heart's there. They got this one location, a cabin in the middle of the woods.
That's
and
it.
They really roll with the time. It was always set around the fall. It's all leaves and
That's
things.
it. Yep.
I think it's great. What I find is even more fascinating that Sam Raimi did a Evil Dead 2 how many years later, I guess we'll come to it, but basically Evil Dead 2 is a remake of Evil Dead 1 but just done better with a budget.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yeah, he's literally
It's essentially the same film.
same film. He's quite incredible to see it, but the second film has more humorous moments, so it's another genre mix-up.
Right.
He has these slapstick moments that Sam Raimi likes, things like the Three Stooges, where you go to poke someone in their eyes and they put the hand up and then they can't do it, and it's all like, so the zombies are trying to
Proper slapstick.
do that, but mixed with these gory horror chainsaw moments of blood and guts.
I think he went full peg with that with Army of Darkness, which was
the third
technically
film.
the third in the Evil Dead trilogy. That was proper comedy. You can't take that film seriously at all. It's not a horror film.
But it's led by Bruce Campbell, who's got a great
presence.
Great presence, a very charismatic guy and very funny. But yeah, the second film is when I was watching, I thought this is the first film, but
that's the one with something under in the fruit cellar called Henrietta.
Yeah. That might put you off your dinner.
Yeah, but that's 81's horror movies.
Okay, well, thanks for that, dude. All right, so moving on to the Cannonball Run.
Cannonball.
Which is, I know that we have our own tastes in movies and stuff, but this is one of the very few movies that we all just blindly love.
Yeah, literally, this is a great childhood favourite of mine. My brother and I, we wore the videotape out, watching it endlessly, and I'm sure, as did Alan, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film. It's great cast.
It's filled with an all-star cast at the time. They were all big names, and it was just knockout comedy. It's based on a real life event. This Cannonball Run is a race from west coast to east coast, or rather the other way around. They race backwards and forwards.
From one side to the other.
Yeah, from one side of the country to the other in a set time they had to do it in. And Hal Needham, who made Smoking the Bandit with Burt Reynolds, actually did the Cannonball Run in this ambulance, which Burt Reynolds uses in the film to avoid running through red lights, and if there's any police sort of stop them, they say they had serious medical supplies on board that they had to get to the other side of America. No, they never questioned it, of course, and they just let them run. But it's such a great concept for a comedy. They thought, well, we put all these great actors in it and these great cars, and it's
for us it's a time capsule comedy, and it's the way they act as opposed to the what they say and such, and like Sammy Davis Jr. being such a
you got Sammy Davis and Dean Martin as priests, if you can swallow that. They're two members of Sinatra's Rat Pack, and you got to be able to buy Dean Martin as a former race car driver who's always got a drink in his hand. He's always got a glass of whiskey, red faced, and he's always sloshed.
Look at the chicks.
Look at the chicks.
We were Methodist.
And you have to be able to. And he's literally getting in the car and they're both drunk. And he's like, "So who's driving? You're driving. No, you're driving. Oh, I can't drive. Oh, then I'm driving. Yeah, hold my drink." And it's just literally. They play it so well. And then you got, as I say, you got Burt Reynolds, who was #1 box office star at the time, with Dom DeLuise. They make a great double act because they were really good friends in real life. With Farrah Fawcett playing the patient, who was big as Charlie's Angels. She was a big star.
Jack Elm as their doctor, Dr. Nicholas Van Helsing.
Dr. Nicholas Van Houten, a proctologist doctor they hire for $200.
Marty Feldman type.
Yeah, he's got insane eyes and a big finger he keeps shoving under people's noses.
And the organ music they get every time they see him.
Yeah, he's like the sinister whenever they see him, and he's always injecting himself with something, which we never find out what it is. But it keeps him going. And then you got another big name at the time, Roger Moore, who was James Bond.
That's right.
Who's not playing James Bond, but he's playing a guy who thinks he's Roger Moore. He's actually his character is called Seymour Goldfarb Jr.
Yes, it.
Other great characters: Jamie Farr from MASH playing this insane sheik.
Too much couscous.
Too much couscous. Yeah, couscous. No, the Sheik was brilliant in that. I got to say,
Sheik was great.
Highlight of the film. Really.
Mel Tillis is great. Country star playing who had a bad stutter in real life. Blessing. Playing one of these race car drivers.
Was this the one with Jackie Chan?
And Jackie Chan, yeah, this is the other great
first
thing. His first kind of American film, and he doesn't speak any English in it, but it's a nice showcase for him to do his martial arts.
That's right, because he fought the bikers, don't they?
Yeah, there's a big fight scene with Peter Fonda of all people, Easy Rider, and all these bikers. There's a wonderful chance for him to show off all of his martial arts chops. And
who wins in the end, by the way? I never actually I don't think I ever got to the end because I'm just die laughing.
Which is a great thing because they have this big fight scene, so they're basically all starting from scratch again. They're all starting at the same time. They're only like a few blocks from the finish line. There's a car crash or something, and it causes a pile up, so they have to get out of their cars and they have to run to the finish line. And Burt Reynolds kind of sabotages it by jumping on a few of them and causes a pile up of bodies. and the only person who breaks through is one of the girls driving the Lamborghini, and Dom DeLuise dressed as Captain Chaos, and he's in the lead, winning victoriously with the ticket in his hand. And then a woman shouts out, "Oh my God, my baby's drowning!" And he goes, "I'll save your baby," and jumps thing. And then of course the Lamborghini girl and clocks in, and she wins technically. And but Reynolds is very annoyed by it, and slaps him. There's a lot of slapping in this film.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. That's how he announces himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's if it was in any other film, I guess perhaps it wouldn't work. But in this case,
for some reason, it does.
Every mad thing in this film works. I can't fault it in any way.
Yeah.
It's a joy.
Okay. Whilst we're on the subject of Roger Moore, we'll talk about his For Your Eyes Only.
Oh yeah, it's our first Bond film this decade.
Yes.
Yeah, For Your Eyes Only. This
is his last?
No, it should have been the previous film, which was Moonraker, was technically supposed to be his last contracted one. So I guess they were looking at casting new actors, which they always do, and I think Lewis Collins from The Professionals.
Yep, Sam Neill was he?
And Sam Neill might have been looked at.
When did they approach Pierce? Was that when they were looking for Timothy Dalton?
Yeah, that was after Roger Moore quit officially, but he hadn't quit at this point, and he was still looked at because he was big box office, and I think at this time we mentioned the last one about Heaven's Gate, that was owned by United Artists, and because United Artists was about to crumble, MGM come along and bought up the stock, and one of the films which helped United Artists stabilise with MGM was For Your Eyes Only. It was it was already made, it was already in the can. They released it this year, and it was a big financial support just on its own. That and Rocky 3.
But this was played very serious.
Yeah, this is a wonderful, down-to-earth Bond film compared to the previous film of Moonraker. A deliberate attempt to round it, hardly any gadgets, very little humour, and quite a serious Roger Moore performance. Out of all the films he made, this is his least working. He plays it straight and plays it fantastically. It holds my favourite Roger Moore moment, actually. Bond tracking down the killer who's driving this Mercedes, and it's
Locke.
Locke. Yeah. And he's a silent assassin who never says anything. And the car is, he shoots the car and it's balancing on the edge of a cliff. And the killer in the car basically reaches out for Bond to help him, and Bond coldly kicks the car off the cliff with the villain inside. And it's a wonderful Fleming-esque moment. He plays it fantastically, Roger. I think it's a great moment.
I think everyone was kind of expecting him to carry on the campy kind of Bond like he did with Spy Love Me. I guess it's a bit more serious.
Yeah, I think also this time the films were moving with the times, because I said to Pete on a previous podcast, they always reflected the times, i.e. Moonraker was on the hot on the heels of Star Wars. With this film, it's I don't think it's copying anything per se. It's got a new director with John Glenn, who was a veteran of the previous films as a second unit director, and he was an editor as well.
And I guess he went on to direct the whole set of the 80s.
He did every
films.
80s Bond, and he had a great run of films. I'm sure we'll mention them as we go along. The score lets it down, unfortunately, for me personally. It didn't have John Barry. Had Bill Conti, and it's quite dated. This kind of disco beat, kind of
that's true.
Flaring.
I agree.
Guitars, but it does have an epic theme tune.
Is this the one with the they have to go diving, and they got those guys with the weird mechanical diving suit thing with the pincers?
Yeah, it's got
and he sticks a bit of a detonator on the back of one of them.
Yeah, that's right. They have to. The film revolves around them rescuing a secret coding machine that's been sunk at the start of the film, and so they have to go to the underwater wreckage through this ship, and yes, the bad guy turns up in this giant diving bell suit with sharp claws and things, and tries to.
For some reason, I find this confused with Never Say Never Again, which is obviously not an official Bond movie.
No, please don't be confused.
Please.
No, but no, he's got great. The song's quite good. The Sheena Easton.
That's it.
And she was the only Bond performer who performs the song to actually appear in the credits.
That's right.
because she's a very beautiful young lady from Scotland. Title designer said, "Yep, let's put her in." He didn't do that with Shirley Bassey, and why not? It's absolutely right. In fact, as a side note, the Debbie Harry of Blondie submitted a song which they turned down, rightly so. I don't know if you heard it. It's quite bad.
Is it?
Yeah, but he has these little sort of Bondian moments in the song, but it's a bit too disco-y.
And I believe Julian Glover, the villain Christatos,
Yeah,
he was cast in this based on his very limited role for Empire Strikes Back.
yeah,
He played the villainous General Veers.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he's a solid actor. He's an old friend of Roger Moore's. They did episodes of The Saint together and Persuaders and all these old things. So they were very old friends, and also according to one of the documentaries, he was a candidate for a potential Bond replacement.
Wow.
In the late 60s, perhaps. He had that look, but probably a bit too old by then. I say a bit too old. He's probably the same age as what Roger was in this film. He's already in his early 50s. So lots of makeup for Roger and a bit of extra hair dye.
I think worries me a lot about this Bond film is Roger was probably pushing, but he was definitely
early 50s.
He was early 50s by then. He was 54 when he was in
Octopussy.
Is he 54 in Octopussy?
Yeah, I think he's about. His last one was 57 when The View to a Kill was.
So obviously one of the girls in there is BB.
Yeah, this is a great point actually, Al. The girl who plays the ice skater in this film, she was 19, I think, or maybe even younger.
Dirty bastard.
But Roger agreed, or even flagged, said, "I think this might be pushing it too much." So in the film, she's constantly trying to get his attention, and he keeps pushing her away. It's never.
Oh, you never.
No. She sneaks into his hotel room and comes out the shower, stalkers, and invites him into bed, and he throws his clothes and says, "Oh, you get dressed, and I'll buy you an ice cream or something." So it's a sensible moment.
Yeah.
To him to flag, because it would have been wrong for him to.
No, absolutely.
Or even perhaps if he was a younger actor, the character was actually very young, so it's quite rightly he should have
old enough to be daughter.
More so. Yeah.
Moving on to Chariots of Fire. Now, I do want to preface this with Vangelis. What he brought to the cinema industry was pioneering, and I will miss him dearly because his work is very uncoordinated. It's not sticking to any specific formula except for mood and atmospheric, and of course his signature scoring role was Blade Runner, which we'll talk about in the next episode. But Chariots of Fire was the score that everyone remembers. If you think of Vangelis, you'll think of that.
Yeah,
very popular thing.
I've never actually seen this film.
I've not actually seen this film,
but everyone knows the music, and I think that's the testament to his legacy. That everyone knows his music.
I thought we should just give a nod to it anyway, because of course we have Stephen Fry and Kenneth Branagh as
their early
debuts,
debutantes.
And from what I know of the film, the writer is Colin Welland, I think his name is. He's a northern actor / writer, and he very famously, when he won the best writing Oscar at the Oscars, he got up on the podium, big brash northern guy, and he sort of held his Oscar up now and he said, "Watch out, the Brits are coming." And which prophetically they were, because the next year Attenborough got up and won for Gandhi, and a few other sort of great actors and directors sort of would win. English producers over the 80s was quite a prolific year for Brits. That's my contribution to Chariots of Fire.
For me, I'm going to third this. I've never seen it myself. It's every time we seem to have rented a VHS video for the
in the good old days.
That trailer would always be
would it?
Be on that tape. It'd always be there. Chariots of Fire.
Yeah.
We'll see them all running down that beach. That music.
You can't deny that the music is powerful and inspiring, and
it's unforgettable.
And even as far back as the Olympics in London, 10 years ago, and they got Mr. Bean to do a spoof of it where they played the theme, and Mr. Bean plays the synth note.
It's just the one note, and he's bored to buggery, to the point where he starts pulling his phone out.
Yeah, so that's a testament to the power of the film and the music.
Ian Holm won Best Supporting Actor for Chariots of Fire as well.
Great Ian Holm. I think that might again segue nicely into another Ian Holm film this year, which was he featured in Time Bandits.
Oh, okay, yeah, Time Bandits. Yeah,
this is Terry Gilliam.
That is finest.
Yeah, this is his breakaway film from the Monty Python gang.
This is his first one after.
Yeah, as a director.
Okay.
Because he co-directed The Life of Brian with Terry Jones. They were the two Terrys, but this is his first as a single director, on his own. But the script's co-written with Michael Palin, so the Python connection is still there.
I don't know. It doesn't have the same. I don't know what he was trying to achieve, or whatever mood he was trying to get across. But I don't know. I didn't really
well, for me, this sets up the Terry Gilliam films to come. It has all these otherworldly, quirky situations and feels that he sets up. If it's a future technology, but it's not a clean future. There's lots, with wires and smoke and technology is not great in the future.
Darkly lit rooms.
Yeah, darkly
with single
lit rooms,
spotlights.
Which, his later films, for instance, Brazil, would embrace that.
Yeah, I always get the kind of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey kind of feel with Joss Ackland. Yeah, in that kind of future.
That's what future is. So he's got a very distinct visual style, Terry Gilliam, and as this has sci-fi elements of a map that these a set of time-traveling dwarves use, and they take this boy who's asleep in his bedroom through his the wardrobe opens up, and at the night on a horse comes flying through the wardrobe, and he's sort of taken on this journey across time and space.
Very bizarre.
And taken back to meet, and that's where we meet Ian Holm, who plays Napoleon. They go back in time to Robin Hood days, where you got John Cleese playing a very pompous, almost like he's a member of the royal family.
Was there another cameo in this film?
And there's a very famous cameo, by Sean Connery.
Yeah, I thought as much.
And this is a great Terry Gilliam story. He said that when he wrote the script, the guys had travelled back to ancient Greece. This gladiator guy is fighting with this huge kind of Minotaur helmet on, and as they arrive, they inadvertently help him by landing on the victim he's fighting. And so he removes his helmet, and in the script it's written the helmet's removed to reveal none other than the great Sean Connery or an actor of cheaper equivalent. Because he knew he'd never get Sean Connery because it wasn't that high budget a film. But ultimately, Sean Connery, the script had got to him, and he liked the mentioned, and it was a very small role, and it was in Morocco or somewhere, and he thought, I'll do it. And the great little moment it is, he's got a good sense of humour in it, and for me it's a nice little film as a young age. When I saw it, it's an adventure film. It's
for me there was something off about it. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but
that's fair enough.
I mean, after watching Life of Brian and Holy Grail and stuff, I don't know.
Yeah, but I never discovered them till later in life. I know it sounds weird. I mean, I
couldn't tell you which way round.
I grew up with the sort of Time Bandits and those sort of films first, and then as I got older, it wasn't until, funny enough, we was at college, sort of embraced the Python-esque nature with.
Well, that was thanks to Jerry.
Thanks to our friend Jeremy. If you're listening, hi Jerry.
Hello, Jeremy.
Jezza.
This is the first film for Terry Gilliam, and he made some really brilliant films. Of course, he did one of my utmost favourites, which is Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. If you haven't seen that, please give that a watch. It's absolutely brilliant.
It's a good film.
But he's renowned for not really having a beginning, middle and end as such. It's like he doesn't really conform to the standards of story formula as such. He likes to play around and mix things up and stuff. So I love the atmosphere that he brings to his movies, regardless of what it is. I mean, 12 Monkeys was
12 Monkeys
was
great.
a really good one.
For this decade alone, I mean, Brazil for me is like his best film. But there he went on to make The Adventures of Baron Munchausen and The Fisher King. Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams.
What year was Fisher King?
I think that's the early 90s. I don't think we'll get to talk about it, but that's a
we may do a 90s series. How well this goes.
For me, he is the more films he's sort of made, by that time he's already developed the style that's introduced already. He began with Time Bandits. The great compliment you could pay to him as a director is you can watch a few minutes of it and you'll know it's a Terry Gilliam film.
Oh, absolutely. Whereas
some directors you watch and you might not know who the director is, but I think with Terry, off the bat from the wide-angle lenses or the cinematography has a kind of realistic look to it. very kind of natural source light.
Yeah.
And if the moon's misty, they'll use that sort of thing. It's not too Hollywoodized, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But no, it's terrific cinematography.
On the I suppose on the subject of I suppose odd movies.
Mm-hmm.
Clash of the Titans.
That's this old chestnut.
Yeah,
I watched this a few times.
Yeah, this was always on BBC Two.
Yeah.
Always on BBC Two on a kind of Sunday or something. About 5:15, weird times, but back then.
Yeah, that was another favourite from your childhood.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was Harry Hamlin and Burgess Meredith, who would be Mickey in the Rocky films. First few Rocky films.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got the great Laurence Olivier as Zeus.
Who's the stop motion artist?
Ray Harryhausen.
That's the one.
And that's one he would have done. Jason and the Argonauts, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah, Maggie Smith's in it.
Maggie Smith, yes, that's it.
Ursula Andress.
Andress, yes, right.
Andress.
Yeah. Maggie Smith and Ursula Andress are basically the gods of Olympus, with obviously Laurence Olivier. It just tells the story of a tyrant king basically throws a mother and its child basically in a coffin into the ocean.
Perseus.
And so young Perseus sends him adrift to get rid of them. Zeus gets wind of this because obviously Perseus is the son of Zeus.
Yeah.
And obviously, in vengeance, he calls upon Neptune to release the Kraken on the city of Argus.
Release the Kraken.
Yeah. And this big four-armed sea monster basically destroys this city completely.
And this is all motion captured.
This is all done stop motion, yeah.
But it wasn't the city's fault, though, was it?
Well, that's the way of the gods.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Just for one guy's avarice.
Very bizarre sort of film. If you watch it now, you just, I'm not talking about the special effects as such, but it was just the pacing of it, and I don't know, it was just weird. I watched it a few times. I mean, obviously, probably because of the leading actress. She was very fit.
My memory of this film,
Go on, say it, because I was about to say it. Go on.
The Medusa.
Yes.
Yeah. It's quite with the stop motion effects.
It's creepy.
It's very creepy. Yeah.
It was terrifying when I first saw that.
Because obviously you look at this image of Medusa with all these live snakes on her head.
Yeah.
And if you look her in the eyes, you turn to stone.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because the way the story goes, obviously, is
that's quite a strong image.
Andromeda's mother basically is happy that finally someone has solved the riddle, and she said, my daughter is more beautiful than the god Hera herself. To which Hera is obviously Maggie Smith. The statue starts quaking and cracking, the head comes down, her face appears, and that's when she says, for your blasphemy of me, I demand the life of Andromeda. And that's when she said in 30 days she's going to be sacrificed to the Kraken.
Quite fucking trigger happy, weren't they, these gods?
Yeah, they didn't care, did they?
This is Ray Harryhausen's best.
Yeah, I think this is his finest work.
Big box office. The original budget to between $9 and $15 million. It made $70 million.
Yeah,
so that's.
I'm very happy to say I got this on Blu-ray.
It will always stay in my memory, that Medusa, especially that shot, which will be on the screen.
It's the shot when she
don't look at it in the eyes.
But don't look at her now.
Yeah, when she first comes out, she like crawls. It's that motion. It's like she's rocking out of bed.
He knew exactly how to do it, Ray Harryhausen.
And it's the lighting, because you've got all those torches.
Yeah.
Of fire, sort of just flickering in her sanctum, if you like, and
the rattlesnake sound.
She's got the rattler tail and all that.
Yeah,
but then it's that moment of suspense when he's standing behind his pillar with his sword, and obviously he's thrown his shield down, and she can see him. He's trying not to look at her, and then the way he times it and just comes around without looking at her, he just takes her head right off. And she lets her shriek out, and then her body goes down as she's clambering. She draws her nails down this pillar, and the stuff that comes out of her is like,
oh god, yeah.
It's like this. It's like this red jelly kind of stuff. It's not even quite blood, but yeah, that's what comes out of her. And obviously, he bags the head, and he deals with Calibos one last time.
And he used the head to
even
defeat the Kraken.
Yeah, he does. The Kraken comes out, and he pulls the head out of the bag.
Yeah. Good job we didn't hold it the wrong way around.
Exactly, otherwise it would have rolled credits.
No.
Roll the credits. But for some enough, Zeus doesn't seem to care that the Kraken gets killed.
No.
Neither is Neptune, because obviously Neptune is the master of the Kraken.
They are literally a bunch of dicks, those gods. So I'd be like, fuck you, bitch. You know what I mean? Anyway. Well, it's true, isn't it? It's just like, talk about take your fucking job and run with it. Fucking job's worse. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you want to talk about it, but there's Arthur with Dudley Moore.
Yeah, that was a big film this year.
And Liza Minnelli.
Liza Minnelli and Sir John Gielgud playing his butler. I think he won an Oscar for this, playing the butler who's...
Yes, he did. Best supporting actor for Arthur, yeah.
Yeah, because it's John Gielgud, but because it's quite a mature film, he actually swears in it, and no one expected someone like him to be using expletives in a film. But he's good. He's kind of Arthur's rich orphan and an alcoholic, and encourages him to sort of stop wasting his life and meet someone and settle down.
And to think he could have got a Batman suit and gone out.
Oh well, yeah, it's true actually. Yeah, the origin story. He could have. It would have been quite interesting to see Dudley Moore as Batman. That would have been interesting. Have Arthur as Batman, a kind of drunk Batman.
And he's
that would have been good.
Expletive throwing butler.
Yeah, and with a swearing butler. Yeah, you have an Alfred style thing, but he calls him a little shit and makes sure he washes his dick. Penis. No, great film, and the song was a big hit this year as well. It was about Bacharach.
That's right. Yeah, the best you can do is fall in love.
Yeah. That was the name of the song, best original song that year. Great song.
And then of course we had Das Boot.
Ah, yes.
This is quite an important one.
And a very long one as well.
Das is good. Yeah.
Long movie.
This is one of my favourites this year. Originally, it was written as and actually played out as an 8-hour or an 8-episode television series, but was planned as a feature film, and so a feature film was cut from it. There's various versions of it. The director's version, I think, is about 4 hours. The release version might be shorter than that, but this is a great film, great German director, the name of Wolfgang Petersen. But yes, water is very much featured in this film, so it's set during World War II, and it's the German perspective on a U-boat.
Jürgen Prochnow,
yeah, terrific actor, and his crew going out to sink ships, torpedo them, and clear the way for the for their own ships to sort of get through and arm all the forces fighting during the war. But it's the little moments. There have been submarine films before this, but I think this is the first submarine because they have all these films like Run Silent, Run Deep, and where it's just there's lots of silence and stuff. And in this film there's moments of silence when they have to be quiet, but there's also moments of sheer panic and terror, and the cinematography that goes with it. There's lots of because obviously it's a very long thing, a U-boat submarine. There's a terrific running shot of I don't think it's Steadicam, but it's literally running through these tiny corridors past bunk beds and tubes and gangway doors and right down to the bottom of the boat, when the crew have to literally run to the front of the U-boat to make it sink faster in order to get away from depth charges and things being shot at them. An authentic feeling submarine film. But for me, the director really made it different from other submarine films. It's the quintessential submarine film. I think Tony Scott, Ridley Scott's brother, he wanted to do his own submarine film called Crimson Tide with Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington, and he said, I'll never top Das Boot, but I'm going to give it a bloody good try, which he did in Crimson Tide. It's a good film, but I think everyone basically rates this film. An interesting tie back to Raiders. There's a shot in Raiders of the Lost Ark of a submarine in a submarine pen.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes, there is. Yeah.
And the Ark is being taken off and being set up for the end. That submarine on the submarine pen is actually where they shot Das Boot. They were filming it simultaneously.
Oh wow!
It's a great film. I really recommend it.
Well, I'll be honest, I've not seen it.
Well, you should watch it.
I know. Yeah, there's quite a lot.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Well, it's about this at this point that I should say that your rules are really beginning to annoy me. Escape from New York.
Oh wow!
I just laugh at this trailer every time I see it. I just think it's one of those classic trailers.
I don't remember the trailer, but
all I remember is him just standing there, staring at the camera, going, "Your rules are really beginning to annoy me."
Yeah, this is for me. It's one of my favourite John Carpenter films.
Yeah,
he's coming off the back of Halloween and The Fog, and this is before he even gets to the Thing. You know, he was
exactly. He was on a roll.
He was on a roll like John Landis was. They literally every film topped the one previous. Yeah, this has got Kurt Russell, great Kurt Russell, playing this
man with an eye patch.
Man with an eye patch. Yeah. Snake Plissken.
Yeah, that's it. That's
sent into New York, which is now a prison in the future. The future being 1997, I think it is.
Yeah.
Obviously,
can I just add some throwaway trivia? Metal Gear Solid's character of Snake was loosely based on Snake Plissken.
Ah.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see that comparison. Yes.
But the story is obsessively he has to go into New York, which is now prison, penal colony, and where the president of the United States, played by Donald Pleasance,
Dr. Sam Loomis from Halloween,
in full English accent as the American president.
Only in America.
Yeah. And has to rescue him within 24 hours, or he has a charge in his neck where if he doesn't bring him back, then he's killed by this.
That's it. Stacey Keach.
No, that's the second one.
That's Escape from LA, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bad.
No, it's Lee Van Cleef.
Lee Van Cleef, that's the one.
Your old chum. And I think Kurt Russell was so amazed by acting with Lee Van Cleef that he said his first scene he sat down opposite him and suddenly he found himself doing a Clint Eastwood style voice, purely on instinct from sitting opposite Lee Van Cleef, and so he stuck with that kind of, way of talking throughout, purely because of Lee Van Cleef. Otherwise, he would have used his usual Kurt Russell voice.
I told him, this train will go to Tucumcari.
This train will go to Tucumcari. He's great, Lee Van Cleef. He's got such a great, because he's meant to be one of the good guys, and you can't necessarily trust him, So you're left on edge throughout the whole film, whether or not he'll go through with his, if the time's up in 24 hours, he'll kill Kurt Russell,
That's it.
So it's I think it's great. A very low budget film, but
where did they film it?
They filmed it, and it wasn't New York, but it was
because it was done really well.
Yeah, it's sort of the slums of some excerpts of another city, might be like Philadelphia or something.
Okay.
Where it was cheaper to film and run down, and they didn't have to dress it up. They just put their own extras into it. But it's full to the brim with great characters, great actors. Ernest Borgnine is this paternally happy, taxi-loving, jazz-loving taxi driver. He's always got a big grin on his face. Harry Dean Stanton as the Brain. He calls himself the Brain. And then John Carpenter's wife from the Cannonball Run, funnily enough. She was hot out the Lamborghini and straight into this film as the Brain's wife. And, of course, the great chef from South Park.
Isaac Hayes.
Isaac Hayes playing...
Hello, children.
the King of New York. And of course they're holding Donald Pleasance hostage, so it's I think it's a great film. It was very low budget, but they made it work with what they had, and a nice soundtrack composed by
Carpe himself.
Yeah.
So moving on to I think we've pretty much discussed all the major ones, so we should probably go through and just have a mention of some little ones, unless there's anything else.
Sure. Well, we've got Stripes for Bill Murray and Harold Ramis.
Yeah,
it's a great little comedy film. It also starring the late great John Candy.
We had Gallipoli, Peter Weir, Mel Gibson.
Yeah, it was a great film. A great true story.
There was Porky's, which was a prelude to the American Pie films. A lot of sex-driven college teens or high school teens.
That was a very big thing that's going to come up in the 80s. These kind of 80s high school comedies.
Very sexually repressed.
Yeah, there is. I think the first one was back in the 70s. Was the National Lampoon's Animal House.
Yes,
with John Landis, which featured bits of nudity and college campus antics.
I know Porky's upped it a little bit.
Yeah.
The famous shower scene.
Yeah,
where they pop something through a hole for the girls to look at.
Oh yes, of course, Mad Max 2.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the last one, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just briefly mention it in that the film is literally a road, pretty much, and it's him trying to get from A to B. And the reason why it's such a good, prominent movie is just because of its style. I mentioned that the previous one was very surreal and sort of art housey, but this one is pretty much the sort of opposite. It's very formulaic. I just wanted to bring it up briefly, just because it is one of my favourites.
There's two films on the list we haven't mentioned, but you're two of my favourites. The first one, Thief, by Michael Mann, starring James Caan as his thief, and bags of style, oozes classiness from the first shot. It's Michael Mann really coined the classy crime flick genre, you know, because everything feels real, because it's as close to being real as possible. He'd hired real ex-criminals or current criminals, whoever he could get, to show them how they break into safes and banks and things and things. So he'd have it's as most authentic as you could be that they've been seen in a film up to that point.
Right. He's another guy that lights all his stuff naturally as possible.
Yeah, he's very naturally, but still stylized.
Yeah.
A lot of his films take place at night, so they're reliant on street lights and car lights, or if they're talking outside a bar, lots of neon signs lighting the actors. Yeah, he
tried to be as unartificial as possible.
Yeah, but as real looking as it is, it still looks great. It still looks heightened. He's got a terrific eye for visuals. I love Michael Mann. Sharky's Machine. This is the other film I just wanted to mention. This is Burt Reynolds' stab at a Clint Eastwood film.
Okay.
Because in real life, Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds were terrific friends, and they basically agreed that maybe tackle a film in each other's genre. So Burt do a Clint-style tough guy action film, and Clint do a good old boy light comedy style film. So then that's exactly what happened. Clint's film was Every Which Way But Loose, which is Alan.
Great film.
One of Alan's favourites.
Right turn, Clyde.
Yeah, you can totally imagine that being a Burt Reynolds film. You know, with the orangutan and all the sort of country style, you know, the guys with the hats and the music.
Yeah.
It's on paper, it's very much a Burt Reynolds film, but with Clint. And Sharky's Machine, for me, is very much a tough guy. If Clint Eastwood walked in instead of Burt Reynolds, you totally buy it. But I think Burt Reynolds actually directs this film and directs it very good. It's actually one of Tarantino's favourite films.
That's right.
It is very tough film. It's set in the vice department of the police department, so it's to do with prostitution and pimps and lots of gang violence. And in this film, the character Sharky gets his fingers chopped off. The thing is, it's a very tough film.
Tarantino used some of this music from this film or something?
He did, yeah. The opening theme is Street Life by Randy Crawford, which he reused in Jackie Brown. Yeah, that's right. Film. Great film, yeah, great song. It's used terrific opening helicopter shot of Atlanta, which is one of, I think, where Burt Reynolds was from. Yeah, it's a terrific film, great soundtrack, a very gritty film, and Henry Silver, back from Alligator, he plays the killer in this film, who doesn't feel sort of any pain. He's so drugged up on cocaine. He's shot multiple times, but just keeps going. And
the fall.
Yes, there's a famous stunt right at the end when the killer is shot by Sharky, by Burt Reynolds, and it set a Guinness Book of World Records of the highest free fall on film, because he didn't want to put a dummy flying out of the thing. They built a sort of platform for the guy to run on, but he fell like over 225 feet out of this window, arms flailing, and so it obviously wasn't a dummy. But it's set a world's record, and it's such a startling image to be flying out of this glass tower building that he's on, and I think it's a great way to end the film.
We did discuss this before the podcast, but I thought that the record was broke by Jackie Chan in an Eastern film. I don't know what it was called, but if you can correct me there, because I do remember Jackie Chan saying that he did an epic fall, but I might be mistaken.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys want to bring up?
I think for 81, I think that could actually be it.
Let's bring in some birth and deaths and a bit of news. Natalie Wood drowned this year. Bless her.
Which is still a mystery, unsolved mystery.
Still an unsolved mystery, but I think what actually, I don't know.
On the boat, there was the captain of the boat, obviously, and the other passengers was her husband Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken, who she was making a film with at the time. And the rumour is that they were having an affair, and Robert Wagner found out, and they were arguing, and she ended up overboard.
That's most likely what happened. Yeah, but you're not going to get another word out of Christopher Walken about it.
He's never talked about it. He's refused to talk about it ever. He'll take it to the grave.
Guilty. I don't know. Who knows? But bless her. She was a really, really good actress, and
she was. Yeah.
I don't know whether we should be saying actor or actress now, but anyway, yes. God bless you, Natalie.
As we mentioned before, MGM acquired United Artists.
Yeah.
And of course, the 53rd Academy Awards was postponed because of the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan.
The big film that won or did really surprisingly well was Warren Beatty with Reds, which on paper shouldn't work. It's like a 3-hour film about revolutionary Russia, 1917, and socialist issues.
It's a very interesting year for film, and as I mentioned at the beginning, there's not really much in this year that I could sort of really highlight for me personally. I know there's some stuff for you, Mark and you, Al.
Absolutely, yeah.
That'll do it for this time, ladies and gentlemen. So until the next episode, we're going to say goodbye to Mark.
Goodbye.
And we're going to say goodbye to Alan.
Goodbye.
We'll see you next time, fellas.
See you in 1982.
Indeed, yes.